Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than just Peyton Manning. I'm also motivating Manning. When I say insurance, you say financial services. Insurance.
Financial services.
Insurance.
Financial services.
Now when I say nationwide, you say is both. Nationwide.
Is both.
Nationwide.
Is both.
For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
Looking for these better days.
It is a College Football Friday, November 21st. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. The unveiling of the latest college football playoff rankings caused a little bit of a debate earlier this week. Of course, we know it'll play itself out, but I have a lot of questions, and one question in particular that I find myself asking and answering, and I talked about this on the NFL Football Friday pod with Mackenzie earlier, is who is the best team in the country? And the answer that I gave is the best team is the team that I have the fewest questions about. So Jared Smith joins me here on this College Football Friday episode of Better Day presented by FanDuel. And Jared, let me ask you, which team in college football, I don't want your pick on who you think's going to win the national championship. I don't want your pick on who's the best bet to win the national championship. I want you to answer the question, which team in the country right now do you have the fewest questions about?
Ohio State. Easy. Okay. It's a very easy question, and I think my number two answer is Georgia. Just because if the biggest question is about their defense, you have to default to Kirby Smart's like the best defensive mind ever, and I give him the benefit of the doubt on that side of the ball. And I love what I've seen from their offense in Gunnar Stockton.
And they've played much better as of late,
yes.
So they are coming along. My second team behind Ohio State is Notre Dame. I don't have any questions about Notre Dame anymore. The questions about, same thing with Georgia, the questions about their defense earlier in the season have all been solved. This defense is playing like the best unit in the country right now, even though they're not statistically, but they are playing elite right now. CJ Carr has been unreal at quarterback. They have the two best running backs in the country. I think we could be seeing a rematch of last year's championship game.
That would be wild.
Notre Dame's incredible.
I agree. I agree on Notre Dame. I really like the development of CJ Carr. And also the thing that Notre Dame, so for example, last year, you could just kind of stack the box and take away the run game. You can't do that this year because Malachi Fields and the receivers have had a fantastic year, and CJ Carr is developing at a pretty fast pace. So you can't just stack the box and make them one-dimensional because then they'll get one-on-ones on the outside with Pauling and Fields and these great receivers. And they're a tough team. And they're again, when we get to January, Scott, the thing that I value more is the anti-tight sphincter syndrome teams, the teams that don't get tight. And Notre Dame is a very experienced, physically and mentally tough team that isn't going to get tight. And that's why I think that's how I feel about Georgia too, right? I feel like Georgia's grown men that is, improving with their overall play throughout the season, but their coaching and their mentality is really solid, and you're not gonna out tight sphincter them.
We're gonna have to coin that. You're gonna have to coin that phrase and trademark that thing. You can't out sphincter them, Jared.
You can't out sphincter Georgia or Notre Dame right now. I feel like they're unsphincterable.
I'm making T-shirts. I'm putting it up on the Better Day shop.
There you go.
And it's gonna say, it'll be like the source quote. It'll say from Jared Smith. It'll say, "Can't out sphincter me, bro."
Can't out sphincter them. I mean, it's probably one of my favorite phrases because how often do you see these games play out at the highest level, right? Like these high leverage games, and one team shows up and the other team is a complete no-show. And all of the research you've done about the EPA and the stats and the schemes, like it's all irrelevant if the teams are just so tight. Like what's the meme or the gif of the quarterback that's getting the snap and his like hands are shaking? Like if that's the case, it doesn't matter how talented you are physically if you can't handle the mental challenge of playing in these tough environments.
Absolutely. Let's get into the top 25 schedule here for this Saturday, week 13 of the college football season. We're not going to talk about the games that have these absurd spreads here. Texas A&M playing Samford This is that time of the year, right? In the SEC where you get ready, and we've already seen some of the games, but you get ready for the grind of your rivalry games and the end of the season and all that stuff. But anyway, let's talk about the first game of the day. It's a top 25 matchup, noon Eastern time kickoff there in Norman. Number 8 Oklahoma, number 22 Mizzou. Currently up on the FanDuel Sportsbook, it is Oklahoma a 6.5-point favorite with a total of 42.5. I went ahead and I played the under in this game, Jared, earlier in the week. And the reason is I understand Bo Prabula might be back here for Missouri. We don't get official word just yet. But I think Oklahoma's defense is, we talk about Ohio State, them and Oklahoma, the best defenses in the country. And we saw what they were able to do last week. We know what Brent Venables is capable of putting together on a week-by-week basis with this game plan. Missouri's defense is also not too shabby. We look at stop rates in the country. Oklahoma's 8th in stop rate. Mizzou is 37th. Both teams are combining, just allowing about 3 points per drive. And the biggest thing here for me, Jared, and tell me if you agree, I don't trust Oklahoma's offense to put up enough points that I'm worried about this game going over.
It's fair.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's fair. How healthy is Prabula even if he does play? That's the other question too, right? I think we're quick to react to the news of a quarterback returning, but not as quick to absorb how healthy he is. Like we talk about this in the NFL world all the time, right? Like we grade these quarterbacks on a point scale and we upgrade a team when a quarterback comes back, but what if it's only 80%, 70% of that quarterback's full, capacity? Well, then you can't upgrade him as much. So I think that definitely plays a factor. Mizzou wants to run the piss out of it. I mean, that's what they're going to do regardless of who's playing quarterback. The Oklahoma defense is really good at stopping the run. Top 15 in yards per contact, or yards after first contact per rush, and top 10 in explosives allowed. So they're not going to give up the explosives like Mizzou was able to get last week. And the Oklahoma offensive line, I think, has had issues this year. And you mentioned Mizzou defense, Wilson, Young, McClellan in the middle. I mean, this is a really good Mizzou defense. It's crazy how Eli Drinkwitz got some of these players to come from Florida and Georgia and come to Columbia, Missouri. Really good recruiting job by him. Maybe it was the NIL, but I do think there are some really talented. It's probably a little NIL, but still, right? Everyone has money these days, so you still have to convince the person to come.
Of course,
and there is some level of that. So you really impressed. And he also got Matt Zollers, the number 1 quarterback recruit in the state of Pennsylvania, to come to Missouri. So he's an expert recruiter. So I definitely think Missouri's a one dimension.
Guess what, Jared? Those players are going to go with him to Penn State.
Yeah, right. From your lips to God's ears, Scott. Although I did see Bob Chesney's name really get pushed hard in the Penn State.
Okay.
That's the other guy that we might not be thinking of, but I agree. Drink is the number 1 choice, I think, for Penn State. This is going to be a physical football game, and I would be surprised if we see a boatload of points on either side.
Yeah, I think the safer play is on the under in this game. Let's move to another top 25 matchup. This is the site of College Game Day this week. It is number 15 USC against number 7 Oregon up there in Eugene. Now, we've seen the number dance around 10. Here on FanDuel, though, it is back down to 9.5. So Oregon minus 9.5, total of 59.5. As soon as this thing got to 10, I played USC plus 10. I would still play USC plus 9.5. The line doesn't make sense to me, Jared. It really doesn't. I think that Oregon's great, I know, but they haven't played an offense like USC this season. And USC, dare I say, they're battle tested. They scored 24 points against Notre Dame, and I talked earlier about how great that Notre Dame defense is. They scored 26 against Iowa in the rain. And so why aren't they going to score at least 20, 21, 24 against this Oregon defense? I just don't know. What's Oregon's best win? A bad Penn State team?
Yeah.
Like how are we judging this Oregon team to have them lay 10 points at home here? Well, let me ask you the question right now. Here's a simple question. Oregon or Notre Dame? Who's better?
Right
Neutral
now,
field.
Notre Dame.
Okay.
But Oregon's got a better record.
Okay, but I don't care about that. I just care who's better. Who do you have power better?
On a neutral, I would have Notre Dame slightly favored, probably. By at least a point.
Okay, so why is USC the same amount of dog as they were at Notre Dame? USC was a 10-point dog at Notre Dame. Now they're a 10-point dog at Oregon. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's got to be, this number's too far.
I agree, and I think that's why every time it gets to 10, that you're gonna see the buyback. If you want me to make the case for Oregon,
Please
it's
do,
the
please do.
fact that there is like this is the game. This is the Dan Lanning show me game. Because if they lose this game, I don't think they're making the playoff. So if there is a opportunity for Oregon to push the ball down the field against the USC pass rush that since week 5 is outside the top 80 in most categories, and Dante Moore has a ton of time to throw, and they're at home and the snowball starts rolling and the USC defense can't quite get their footing, that's the path for Oregon to cover. I don't necessarily agree that that's the path this game's going to take, because I think Maiyava's absolutely game. Oregon loves to play quarters coverage. That's something that USC has absolutely dominated this year. Oregon plays it at actually the highest rate in the Power 4. I mean, almost half of their defensive snaps are in quarters coverage. And USC has a ton of success. They're averaging over 10 yards per play, third most in Power 4 against quarters. Because why? How do you beat quarters? Well, Maiyava's got 2 elite receivers on the outside, and they can basically – they kind of run like this a version of the wide choice, which is what Tennessee runs, which they get these receivers out really wide and they give them the option of either going deep or running, stop hitch routes based off of what the defense is playing. And I think that is an effective way to beat quarters coverage. So I do think USC is going to have some opportunities in this game to push the ball down the field and to let Maiyava do his thing. But the USC defense, right? Like that's the path for Oregon, showing us their best side here is, Dante Moore, ton of time to throw. USC can't get pressure. And all of a sudden you see that Oregon offense, which exploded last week, continue to have a lot of success.
Also, Oregon can run the ball, and USC has not been good against the run. I mean, we saw Notre Dame run all over USC. Oregon can probably do that as well. So if there's a one concern that I might have is if USC is trailing by 7 late in the game, and Oregon just runs it down their throat and scores an extra touchdown to cover this game in the final minutes. So that would be a one hesitation, but I don't think it's going to get there.
I think 10's a fair bet on USC. Yeah. Like, I mean, it wouldn't be my favorite play of the week, but I do think your point's taken well about the market, comparison to USC at Notre Dame compared to USC at Oregon. Like, I put Notre Dame a little bit ahead, but man, I went back and I watched that because I watched the USC Notre Dame film last week. Because Iowa, we talked about the Iowa game and how Iowa was going to slam it right down in the throats. And Iowa's running back Moulton went over his rush yards prop in that game, so it was a good analysis. And the big takeaway from the USC Notre Dame game was Danton Lynn just refused to bring that extra safety down into the box. USC loves to put those 2 safeties deep and just don't let you beat them deep with the passing game. But if Oregon, says, screw it, we're just going to run it 40 times down your throat, that might be a problem.
Yeah, that could be a problem. Let's move on to our next game here. Kentucky is at number 14, Vanderbilt. Vandy, 8.5-point favorites. Right now, they're on the outside looking in. If the season ended today, they would not make the college football playoff. That doesn't mean that they can't make the college football playoff. A lot of things still have to play out here towards the end of the season. Is this enough of a motivational factor to have Vandy cover this line, which is over a touchdown?
Yeah, so the thing about Vandy in like a must win, right? Like the motivational games, that's kind of how they always play, with the chip on their shoulder. So I don't see this game being any different than any other game Vandy's played this year, where the attitude is, we suck, everyone hates us, we're underrated, we're going to prove people wrong. Like, that is how Vandy plays football. That is their style. That is the attitude that they play with, regardless of who the opponent is. Now, the X's and O's in this game, I'll be honest, I like what I've seen recently from Kentucky's freshman quarterback. Cutter Boley, right? He came in relief of Calzada a few weeks ago. He sucked. They went back to Calzada, who sucked again. They brought Boley in over the last 2 games, and he's been pretty accurate. Played really well against Tennessee Tech and also pretty decent against Florida. He had a pretty good game against Georgia, had a good game against Tennessee. Like, he's had some moments this year. And Vandy's passing defense, they've allowed 72 points in their last 2 games against Texas and Auburn, who are not elite passing teams this year. And they're outside the top 100 in EPA per pass allowed. You can get Cutter Boley right now at a flat 200 passing yards. I kind of feel like Kentucky's going to be very aggressive in this game because what do they have to lose at this point? And this feels like a game that, Vandy, if they're not careful, could trip themselves up here because obviously next week at Tennessee is the game. But they have to be careful because Kentucky has a dog. Mark Stoops has this funky way of covering. And I would not be shocked if Kentucky's in this game. Now, on the other side, Eli Stowers is unguardable for Vandy. I don't know how anyone's going to cover him. And I do think Vandy is a really tough, gritty team that's not going to take this game lightly. But X's and O's wise, I could see Kentucky and Cutter Boley chucking it around the yard a little bit.
And 2 games left for Kentucky. It's this one at Vandy, then they're at Louisville to end the season. 1 win to get bowl eligibility. You know that is a huge motivating factor for a lot of these players and these coaches to get themselves a postseason game. Means a lot for recruiting, means a lot for getting a leg up to start next season's preparations. So we'll see the fight here from Kentucky down the stretch. Our next game in the SEC as well is Arkansas at number 17, Texas. Up on FanDuel right now, Texas an 8.5-point favorite. Total is up to 58.5. Now, earlier in the week, this total was not that high. It was about 56.5, 57.5. That's where I went in on the over. 58.5 now. I still think we get an over. Texas is angry, Jared. They should be. I don't expect them to roll over after the loss last week. Their playoff hopes are shot, but you can't get a 4th loss on your record. So I think they're going to come out angry. And Arkansas is not going to go away. Like, Arkansas is 0-6 in the SEC, but they have not lost any of those games by double digits. They went back and forth against A&M. They went back and forth against Tennessee. They went back and forth against Ole Miss. And all of those were extremely high-scoring games. I think we see a similar type of script here against Texas.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me. I don't have much on this game. I do like what I've seen recently from Arch, but man, he just got no help last week. Absolutely no help. I did watch a little of that film. I dove into that film a little bit, the Georgia Texas game. And, you know, Arch Manning is kind of the only one making plays right now. He still got that really quick release. The opening trip was really good. They marched it down the field, and they got some early points in the game. But then it was drops. It was Ryan Wingo making a bunch of mistakes. They were terrible on third downs. It just seems like there's something a little bit off right now. On the defensive side for Texas, they play a lot of cover 3. They're vulnerable in the flats and the seams. I do think I do think Arkansas will have some success moving it on them. Gunnar Stockton did a really good job layering throws. I don't view Taylor Green quite in that regard as like an accurate pinpoint passer. Like, he's more of a playmaker. But we'll see how he does pushing it down the field. Also, Gunnar did such a good job with his eyes and his play fakes. Like, he played very clean football last week. And again, that's not something Arkansas does really well. They're kind of a helter-skelter chaos kind of offense, where Georgia feels a lot more precise with their run game and their play action. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Texas defense does kind of just clamp down on the athletes. But if we do get a couple of plays for Arkansas, and then all of a sudden Texas has to match, I could see this one having some shootout vibes.
Let's move ahead to our primetime schedule here on our Saturday, week 13 of the top 25 college football schedule. And let's talk about a big one here in the ACC. It is Pittsburgh at number 16, Georgia Tech. Currently up on FanDuel, Georgia Tech, a 2.5-point favorite, total of 61.5. And, you know, Narduzzi came out and told us last week that they didn't care about the game against Notre Dame. It didn't mean anything. Notre Dame could have scored 100 on them. It didn't matter because everything matters about getting to the ACC championship game. I mean, does the team just all of a sudden flip the switch, right? And then now they turn it on and they're going to take it seriously here against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech staring in the face of the college football playoff at 9-1, looking at the ACC championship game ahead of them. I think this is a fascinating matchup. To see this spread only at 2.5, though, does raise a little bit of eyebrows, Jared.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I really I don't know what to make of Pitt right now. Heinzel is an absolute mixed bag. 12 big-time throws. It's a lot for a freshman that's coming in cold. 14 turnover-worthy plays. High risk, high reward. The Georgia Tech defense doesn't impact the quarterback a ton. Outside the top 100 in sacks, the pass rush grade is slightly better. They have to find a way to disrupt the pocket here, because if they do, Heinzel will serve up some cookies, right? Like he'll make some big plays and he'll make some, daring throws, but he'll also give you an opportunity to, create a turnover. On the other side with Haynes King, I mean, this dude is a rock star. 82% adjusted accuracy rate. That's the third highest in college football. But Georgia Tech still is a run-first team. 54% run rate. That's a top 5 rate. They're over 6 yards per carry. That's a top 10 yards per carry rate. And Haynes King leads the team in rushing yards, second amongst Power 4 quarterbacks. I mean, this dude just gets after it. I like their other backs, Hosley and Haynes. But Pitt's really good at stopping the run. Fifth best run defense grade per Pro Football Focus, 3.5 yards per carry. That's top 10. Loveless, Biles, Lewis. These are really good linebackers at the Pitt second level. So that's kind of the matchup within the matchup here. They did a good job against running quarterbacks earlier this year. They've only allowed one quarterback to run for over 40 yards, and that I believe it was really early in the year. They held Castellanos to 21 on 6 carries. They held C.J. Bailey to 37 on 6 carries, and they held C.J. Carr to 15 yards on 4 carries. Now, Haynes King's a different kind of runner, but at least Pitt does have the opportunity and the experience to hold these rushing quarterbacks down. So that's going to be the interesting matchup to watch here.
But you mentioned none of those quarterbacks are quarterbacks that are like designed quarterback runs. Like this is the first team that they're going to face that actually uses the quarterback run as a weapon and not just
and he's like
the
a
quarterback
fullback.
can
Those
run.
other guys, Castellanos, like they're smaller
Yeah.
in stature, where Haynes King's a freaking bulldozer.
Yes. Yeah, he's a running back playing quarterback.
Yeah.
Yes. But what's impressive about those rushing numbers that you gave for Pitt, that's even with allowing, allowing Notre Dame to run for 170 something yards against them last week, and still they have those elite numbers, which is very impressive. Yeah, I was looking at Haynes King like rushing props, like to score 2 touchdowns, you can get it plus money because to score 1 touchdown, it's like minus 300 or something. But that might be the way that I look in this game. I think I favor Georgia Tech at home, but I don't know. I don't have enough conviction to make an official play on this game just yet. Let's move on to number 20, Tennessee at Florida in the Swamp. Tennessee, a 3.5-point favorite up on FanDuel, total 57.5. And here's the stat that you need to know, Jared. Tennessee has now lost 10 straight games in the Swamp. Their last win in Gainesville came in 2003. As an away favorite 2 years ago, they lost outright against Florida. Can they flip the script? Can they change history and finally win a game in Gainesville?
I'll be honest, I don't really have a ton here. I do think Tennessee's offense is just so tough. Like, Florida's had a really weird season. Defensively, that has been their strength, but I would be shocked if they've been tested cardiovascularly like they will be in this game. Tennessee runs the fastest tempo in college football. They just play as quickly as humanly possible. And we'll see if Florida's up for that challenge. It takes a mental, you have to be a brick wall mentally to hold up to that. And you could see the teams that they've struggled against this year, right? The teams that Tennessee has lost to this year are typically teams that are really strong mentally, like the Georgias and the Bamas and those types of teams, right? I don't know if Florida's ready for that smoke right now. So I would lean to Tennessee, but I don't want to lay points on the road in the SEC with a team that, their defense kind of suspect. And again, Florida has nothing to lose. So I didn't love this game schematically because the side I like is the side I don't want to bet.
Yeah. I like Florida in the first half because this is their first home game in over a month, right? They were on the road. They had the game in Jacksonville. Like, this is their first home game since that Mississippi State game. This is the first home game since they fired Billy Napier. I got to imagine that the players and the crowd comes out pretty electric here in a primetime game in the Swamp. And so I think that it could lead to some high energy early in the game. You mentioned the pace. The Tennessee offense might be too much for them over the course of the full game. But I like Florida in the first half. I think they come out with a little bit of intensity and playing into that electric atmosphere. And maybe Tennessee has that, that bugaboo about them, right? 10 straight losses in Gainesville. We'll see what happens. But I like Florida in the first half here. Let's move on to a really, really big game here in the Big 12, Jared. It is number 11 BYU at Cincinnati. And currently BYU is a 2.5-point road favorite with a total of 55.5. This is one where I'm begging to get the 3. I'm not going to get the 3, right? I think Cincinnati, this might be my favorite underdog play of the week. I think Cincinnati wins this game outright. Really? If you look at BYU away from Provo this year, and I'm going to take away the East Carolina game because I don't care about, the non-conference, whatever. But if you look at the Big 12 games on the road for BYU, 3-point win at Colorado. They had to come back in the fourth quarter. Double overtime win against Arizona, had to come back in the fourth quarter. Oh, and they should have lost that game if not for a phantom holding penalty negating an Arizona touchdown. Anyway, then they had the double-digit comeback win at Iowa State, and then the loss to Texas Tech. This is just a different team away from home. Like, if this game was a primetime game in Provo, it's my best bet. I'm hammering BYU. But on the road against a Tennessee team that's playing for their season, who gets one of their best running backs and Evan Pryor back. So now the two-headed monster between Pryor and Walker is back for Tennessee. And remember, for Cincinnati. And remember, that game that they lost against Utah was the game where they didn't have Pryor in that game. They haven't had him in the last two games where they've lost. So now they get him back. So now it's a two-headed backfield. You want to throw in, Sorsby as a three-headed monster in that backfield. I think Cincinnati has what it takes here to pull an upset at home against a BYU team that I've just been waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it did against Texas Tech. Now, I will give them credit. Huge bounce-back performance against TCU. But again, that was at home in a place where you want to hammer them. Primetime in Provo. On the road, I want to fade this BYU team.
So I agree that there are obviously, advantages to playing at home compared to on the road. But when I dove into the tape on this game, I really saw an edge for BYU. I really did. Because when Bachmeier has played against this style of defense this year, he has thrived. For example, Iowa State plays the same 3-3-5 stack that Cincinnati plays. So does TCU. If you go look at the Pro Football Focus grades, Bachmeier's two highest passing grades of the year are against TCU and Iowa State. There's something about this style of defense, right? Here's why they struggled against Texas Tech. Texas Tech generates the most pressure in all of college football. They were in Bachmeier's grill the entire game. This style of defense, the 3-3-5, is designed to not generate pressure and to drop and prevent explosives. Bachmeier, I watched the entire Iowa State game from a few weeks ago. Bachmeier was chilling in the pocket, having a cup of coffee. And he was just using his rocket arm to fire outside the numbers and deep, which is where the 3-3-5 is vulnerable. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Bachmeier's two best passing games of the year came against the 3-3-5. And that's what he's going to see on Saturday. On the other side for Sorsby, we talked about this last week against Arizona. Sorsby struggles against man coverage. Arizona, Nebraska, Utah, the three losses for Cincy this year, heavy man coverage games. BYU, heavy man coverage scheme, and they play it at a very solid rate. So the matchups in this game do not favor Cincinnati at all. Heavily favors BYU. Now, you want to say the pressure is going to get to BYU and all the publics on BYU and all that stuff. Okay, those are all fair arguments to make that, in my opinion, don't impact the actual X's and O's of the game. To me, this game is a styles make fights kind of game, and I don't think Cincinnati, matchup-wise, especially their defense against the BYU offense, is going to have a successful day. That's just my opinion. I'm on BYU pretty big in this game. I don't care if the public's on it.
Total's 55.5. You think we get a high-scoring game? I mean, Cincinnati, for all their faults, they are still ninth in adjusted EPA per play on offense.
I'll be honest. If I'm playing this game, if I'm going to follow my heart, which is the strategy I've been using this year. Now, to be fair, I haven't had a great year betting college football, so you might say I suck, and that's totally fine. But I'm using the film and what I see on the field to dictate what I play and not the box score and the stats as much. When I watch BYU play against a 3-3-5, I see light bulbs and money signs in my eyes because I just think the way to beat BYU right now is to pressure Bachmeier and be up in his grill all day like Texas Tech was. But that's not the style that Cincinnati plays. They are incapable of doing that because of the 3-3-5. They basically, give up any chance of generating pressure unless they bring a blitz. And if that's the case, you're vulnerable in other areas. So I just think that style of defense, I don't think it is a championship style of defense. I would be shocked if you ever see a team win a national championship on a 3-3-5. The 3-3-5 is designed for mid-major teams or high, Power 4 teams in the second tier, right? Like TCU ran it the year they went to the national championship. They're still running it with Sonny Dykes. But it is vulnerable against good physical teams with big arm quarterbacks that can go outside the numbers, and that's exactly what Bear Bachmeier is. And I don't care if he's a true freshman. he's played some tough games this year, and he's played well
Yeah.
in those games. So I think I'm going to use and rely on my football knowledge here and say that this is a bad matchup for Cincinnati.
All right, it's going to be fun to watch their primetime game coming up on Fox, that Big 12 matchup, and with the Big 12 title game on the line here, birth in the Big 12 title game on the line here for BYU and Cincinnati. Speaking of Fox, Jared Smith will be on Fox Sports Radio's Countdown to Kickoff coming up tomorrow, where the big noon kickoff game is Rutgers, at Ohio State. Ohio State, a 32.5-point favorite. Let's get a little cover for Rutgers. Let's feel good about this, Rutgers. We got 2 games left with a chance to get to a bowl game. We're not going to beat Ohio State on the road. Maybe we can beat Penn State at home, though, Jared. I don't know. We'll have to put like a pizza bet on that. You know, I might have to get you to wear like a Ray Rice
I
Rutgers
want
jersey.
nothing to do with anything Penn State related this year.
Come on, bro. I got a Ray Rice jersey ready for you to wear
All
when,
right,
when Rutgers
all
beats
right.
Penn State on that one, okay? So
I'll use it as toilet paper.
Catch Jared, though, coming up tomorrow morning, Fox Sports Radio, Countdown to Kickoff. Follow him on Twitter at Jared Smith Bets. The morning after. It's not just a pill. It's a great podcast and newsletter from Jared Smith. You can catch that. Again, follow him on Twitter to get all information there.
I love that
For
name.
Jared.
Well, that's why I went with the name. It's such a great name for
It is
a
great.
morning
You know,
show.
Sometimes it makes you feel sick. Sometimes it makes you feel
does.
great.
Fantastic.
He said, don't forget,
That's how
you
my
guys,
takes are some days.
head to betterday.com. The live odds page is there for you. One-stop shop for all of your odds on every sport, all the derivative markets. Just click on the game, expand. You'll get all the fields. It all is free for the public. You guys can check that out and bookmark it. Make that your odds destination. For Jared Smith, I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.